Hello everyone and welcome back to the Sports Porch. I hope that you are all doing well. Welcome back to another video in my NFL Power Rankings and Team Breakdown series. If you guys are enjoying this series, make sure you like this video as well as subscribing and turning on post notifications so you never miss another video from me. Just a reminder, every single day up until the start of the NFL season, Thursday, September 9th, you will see a new video from me every single day highlighting a team's strengths, their weaknesses, some question marks heading into the season, as well as a little bit of fantasy talk, as well as a schedule overview and win-loss prediction at the very end. So if you guys do enjoy the series, make sure you smash that like button. Anyway, let's go ahead and get into it today with the number 23 team on my power rankings, that being the Denver Broncos. They are the last team in my fourth tier of my power rankings with an outside chance of making the playoffs where really everything has to go right for them. So if you want a description on that as well as any more of my tiers in terms of the playoffs or power rankings, that will be in the description below to give a little better idea of what I'm talking about there. The Broncos really do make me sad as a team, as we'll get into. So the coaching analysis, George Paton is in his first year as general manager, Vic Fangio as head coach, and defensive coordinator Ed Donatell are in their third year. Pat Shurmur is in year 2 here, and Tom McMahon is in year 4 at special teams coordinator, while Shurmur is an offensive coordinator. So strengths for this team, I have 3 listed as I had for everyone so far, but honestly, this team is loaded in a lot of spots. The receiving room, loaded. Courtland Sutton coming back from injury. Jerry Jeudy looked good last year, even with the drops. Tim Patrick, KJ Hamler. That right there, those 4 guys could make a depth chart on any NFL team, anywhere. You've also got Noah Fant out of Iowa. Great tight end who I think is poised for a big breakout season. Royce Freeman even in the receiving game. They also drafted Javonte Williams, and they also have Melvin Gordon as well. And then Seth Williams out of Auburn, who they drafted in the 6th round, which I thought was a steal. Even though he is a bigger guy, more of a possession receiver, who those guys are kind of out of style now. They don't tend to work out the best, but when they do, they really are great. The secondary is also loaded. Kyle Fuller, Ronald Darby, Bryce Callahan. Those are 3 great corners right there. Bryce Callahan, you can make an argument as the best slot corner in the entire NFL. Justin Simmons has an argument for best safety in the NFL, although I would still give it to Jesse Bates with him behind. Kareem Jackson. They also drafted Pat Surtain, which we'll talk about a little later, but he is the number 1 corner in this class. Great press corner. Perfect for Vic Fangio's system. As well as Jamar Johnson in the 5th round out of Indiana, who I think was just an absolute steal where they got him for safety. So the secondary room is great, and they also got a little younger as well. The front 7 has also got some great guys there. Von Miller coming back from injury. Bradley Chubb continues to rise. You've also got some solid guys like Shelby Harris, Alexander Johnson. Draymond Jones is really starting to come into his own. So this entire defense really is great, especially under the great coaching of Vic Fangio, who is a top defensive mind in the NFL today. And on the offensive side as well, Pat Shurmur is one of the better offensive coordinators in the NFL. Obviously wasn't great with the Giants as their head coach, but it just goes to show that some guys, they just don't work as a head coach, but they step back, get a little less responsibility, and they're great. It's like the Peter principle, right? Where you eventually keep moving up in the ranks until you reach your highest potential and plateau, or a little too big for your britches, and then you come back down a rung. And that's, I think, where Pat Shurmur is at right now. I think he's a really good offensive mind, and I think he takes this offense to great places. So I have sung nothing but praises for this team up until this point. With the way that I've talked about them, you would honestly probably think that they're supposed to be some sort of Super Bowl team, right? Well, there's a reason why they're number 23 on my power rankings, and that's because of the quarterback position. Teddy Bridgewater, they bring in, I think they traded for him for like a 6th round pick or something out of the Panthers. And then they still have Drew Lock at quarterback, which we'll see with those guys. Teddy can be solid for them, and Drew Lock, if he can flash some potential, he can potentially be a good to great starting quarterback in the NFL. But I have to ask the question why they did not draft a quarterback at number 9. I'm sorry, it was a mistake. Pat Surtain is a great player. That was, in a vacuum, a really good pick. It's never a bad thing to have corner depth in the NFL. But like I said before, they already had Kyle Fuller. They already had Ronald Darby. You already have Bryce Callahan. You didn't need another top-tier corner on this team. You needed a freaking quarterback. And for them to not draft Justin Fields, not even, hell, Mac Jones for that matter, I would have rather taken both of those guys over Drew Lock or Teddy Bridgewater going into the season. That was a big miss to me. I loved the rest of the draft. I loved the rest of what George Paton did, but I can't excuse that. They were not set at quarterback. I don't have a lot of faith in Drew Lock going forward. There were reports last year that Pat Shurmur had to really dumb down the offense for him, and I understand it was a COVID year and all of that stuff, but I'm just not a fan of that type of stuff. Hearing those kind of reports doesn't give me a lot of faith in your quarterback. I don't care what kind of year it is. I think that you should not have your offensive coordinator be dumbing plays down for you and dumbing down the offense. It sounds very similar to someone in Chicago who was there for years who kept getting chances and chances, and they finally moved on from him this year. And the team looks a hell of a lot better for it, I'll say that much. And they're a lot higher in my power rankings too, and they don't have, I don't think, nearly as good a roster as Denver does on paper. So moving on from that entire QB rant that I just had, right tackle and center could be considered weak links. Lloyd Cushenberry is okay. Bobby Massey's going to be okay for them. But a guy to look out for is compensatory pick Quinn Meinerz in the 3rd round, I believe. I really wanted my Packers to draft him. He is out of the University of Wisconsin-Whitewater. I have a buddy who actually goes there, and I think he ran into him on campus a couple of times. And, I mean, this dude is big. He is a brawler. He projects pretty good at guard. He did play center his last year, so it'll be interesting to see if they do play him at center or if they kick him over to guard, but we'll have to wait and see with that, because I do think Dalton Reisner and Graham Glasgow kind of have those jobs locked down for now, but we'll have to wait and see with Quinn Meinerz. I do think he starts for this team, I think within a year, I want to say. He's fiery, he's competitive, he's got the D3 attitude, man. He's a great player, that's all I'm going to say. They really got some steals in this draft, Denver did. And normally I have another weakness for a team. Honestly, those are it. I mean, you could maybe make an argument for, like, I don't know, interior linebacker or something, like inside linebacker, but I really don't think this team has, like, a true weakness like that. So it really does go to show how much I value quarterback in the NFL that I still have the Broncos this low on my list. So let's go ahead and just move on. I'm sorry I'm really stuck on that, but I mean, we're going to talk about him again right here in my storylines and question marks heading into the season. Is Drew Lock ready year 3? Can he ball out? Can he put on for his city this year? My answer to that, I don't really think so. I would really like him to prove me wrong on that. He's a great arm. He has a great arm. He's a gunslinger. He throws the ball into tight windows, sometimes ill-advised. But I don't know, man. I don't know if it's there for me with Drew Lock. I don't know if he has it enough for me. And then my second question is, can Pat Surtain prove me wrong and really justify that pick? I want to say, first off, the pick has nothing to do with Pat Surtain as a player. Like I said, I have him as my corner number 1, and I would have liked to see him go to the Cowboys. I think that was mocked basically everywhere you saw. Unfortunately for the Cowboys, he was taken by the Broncos. It is what it is. But for me, in order for Pat Surtain to prove this pick to have been worthy, he's going to have to play like a star, like right away. He's going to have to be that alpha press corner, similar to a Jair Alexander or a Jalen Ramsey. Maybe not in year 1, but definitely within year 2, you want to see shades of that in his game, because rookie corners do tend to get burned sometimes, but he's got a great group ahead of him where he doesn't even have to play really year 1. He can take rotational snaps, as crazy as that is to sound for a top corner in this class. So I think Pat Surtain will be a great NFL player. Unfortunately, I think he went at the wrong spot. And then can Courtland Sutton play well this year? Coming off of that ACL injury last year, poised to have a big year. I think he has it this year. I think he's got all the tools to be a number one receiver. Even with Jerry Jeudy breathing down his neck, I think there's still obviously a role for Courtland Sutton in this offense. We will have to see, though, how Jerry Jeudy plays. So for my 3 key players, I've got a lot more than 3 here. It kind of makes up for my weaknesses not having as many earlier. Drew Lock / Teddy Bridgewater. Whoever's playing quarterback there literally makes or breaks his team. If they play well, they can make a deep playoff run. And I'm not exaggerating when I say that. A couple of issues on the line, maybe a little bit at interior linebacker, but that's it for me. I mean, you get a great quarterback in this team, who knows what they could do? They could maybe go to the Super Bowl. I mean, as far as we're concerned, with the great coaching they have in Fangio and Shermer, why not? And then Pat Surtain, as I talked about before at length, just trying to justify that pick, really, and make it worthwhile that they took him over a guy like Fields or Mac Jones. Courtland Sutton I have on this list as well. You know, coming off of that ACL injury, he only makes this wide receiver room better. He takes more pressure off of guys like Jeudy, like Tim Patrick, like KJ Hamler, to be able to get open. And if he's on the field, the very important thing for Jeudy is he will not be getting the number 1 corner. And Jerry Jeudy is one of the best separators in the NFL already at his young age. So it'll be big for him to be able to get that corner number 2 on him, maybe get a little bit wider separation to be able to work on catching the ball. All I need to say for Jerry Jeudy is I hope you were on the jugs machine all offseason, because it's very clear you needed it. I do have one more key player here, and that's Von Miller, coming off of that season-ending injury last year. He's going to take more pressure off of guys such as Draymond Jones, such as Bradley Chubb, to be able to do what they do best. And he really is a top edge rusher in the NFL. So he just adds so much more to this team that they didn't have last year. So my 3 best fantasy players, Courtland Sutton is number 1 for me. That really does depend, though, on how he comes back and looks. I think he'll be just fine. My second guy is Jerry Jeudy. This is a really good pick, I think, for dynasty leagues. I think people are going to sleep on him because of the performance that CeeDee Lamb had last year. Because of the performance that Justin Jefferson had last year, Jerry Jeudy kind of slid underneath the radar. And unlike Henry Ruggs, I do think Jerry Jeudy fits well within this offense. And I think Jerry Jeudy can really shine here. And who knows, maybe one day he can take Sutton's job as that number 1. My last guy on this list is Javonte Williams. I always make it a cardinal rule of mine, thank you to my former roommate Brandon for this, to draft a rookie running back, and I think Javonte Williams could be that guy you want to draft. He's got Melvin Gordon in his way. He's got Royce Freeman there, but you could see him take some touches. Those guys are getting a little older. Javonte Williams certainly could be the guy to come in here and take the majority of the snaps, just because of how much older Melvin Gordon and Royce Freeman are. So he's a guy to look at. I wouldn't draft him necessarily extremely early, but I would look to draft him mid-rounds maybe. I think that's as far as he's going to fall. So he's a player to watch for sure. My dynasty sleeper player is a guy I talked about a little bit earlier, that being Seth Williams, drafted out of Auburn. This is a true definition of a sleeper where you can get him undrafted. You can get him, at the end of your rookie drafts. He's not going to be a guy who's on a lot of people's radars just because of how stacked this wide receiver room is in Denver. But if he hits, that's another guy on your taxi squad who has turned into a viable starter, or you can use him as trade bait. Either way, I think Seth Williams has a chance here in Denver. I liked him as a player. I'd maybe like 4th or 5th round talent. Certainly, I didn't think he would make it to the 6th round, but we'll see what happens with Seth Williams. Like I said, most of these sleeper players I have on this list are true sleepers, guys you're going to draft and stash or pick up off waivers and stash on your taxi squad and really just have them sit there. So luckily for Denver this year, they get a little bit of a break with their schedule. Strength of schedule wise, 27th hardest in the NFL, 5th easiest. Some key games for them: week 6 at home against the Raiders. Week 12, coming off a bye against the Chargers, that's a winnable game. And then Week 18 at home against Kansas City, that's really going to, I think, show in a window, in a vacuum, what the season went like for the Denver Broncos. So my prediction for them, even with Drew Lock or Teddy Bridgewater starting, I have them going 8-9. This is a pretty big jump before from other teams I've had going 6-13, 5-12, or excuse me, I have those backwards. This schedule's really got me messed up, man, with the 17 game season. My floor for them is 6 wins. I think there's plenty of winnable games on the schedule. They play Cincinnati, they play Philadelphia. Wow, can't pronounce anything today. They have some winnable games on the schedule, just because of that poor season they had last year. My ceiling for them is 11 wins, honestly. Like I said, they have some easier teams on their schedule. If Drew Lock ends up playing like he should, if he ends up playing like a good quarterback, this team could be deadly. The Vegas over-under is at 8.5 wins. I would say this is strictly a no bet at this time. If I was going to bet it, I would maybe take the under. But this team has so much talent, they could eke out a couple of wins. So I would say just hold your breath on the Broncos. Don't bet on them because I think this is pretty spot on for them. So just an overall statement on this team. They are loaded with talent. The coaching staff is amazing with Vic Fangio and Pat Shurmur. It's just quarterback. It really is just quarterback for me. And like I said before, I really have trouble with the Pat Surtain pick because I think they needed a Justin Fields, even a Mac Jones for that matter. They needed a guy like this to really elevate the team, or at least give the team some optimism going forward. So those are my thoughts on the Denver Broncos. What did you think of my analysis of them? Do you think I have them too high, too low? Leave it in the comments below. Once again, if you guys did enjoy this video, make sure you like and subscribe. Turn on post notifications every single day up until the NFL season. You will be seeing a new video from me breaking down each and every team. So once again, thank you guys so much for watching. I will see you guys tomorrow for the next one, and have a great day.